Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age."
So last week we talked about, we were looking in John 17, and we talked about the mission or the game, kind of used it in those terms, that Jesus is inviting us to join him in. And we really kind of talked about the character of that mission, what it fundamentally is about. It's not a competition that he is inviting us to join him in. It's not something where we're the Christians against the other people. It's not that. It's a game of obedience, a game of practice, a game of living like Jesus and inviting others to come be like him as we are trying to be like him. Because that's what it means to be a disciple. It means to take on the practices and the mindset of the person that you're learning from. Today, we are talking... Here, Sebastian, could you click on the ProPresenter thing there? And then I think this should work for me to, there we go. Yeah. We're considering the passage, Thorge's thread. It's kind of taken to be called the Great Commission. It's the final kind of marching instructions of Jesus before he ascends into heaven. And in the passage, he says, that his disciples, the 11, and then the ones who come after them, are to make disciples of all the nations by baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all that he has commanded them. And as we consider the passage, what we're going to do today is we're going to look more closely at what it looks like to be one of Jesus's disciples. That's what we're going to look at. And as we do that, we're going to see that a disciple of Jesus is someone who believes like Jesus, who behaves like Jesus, and who belongs with Jesus and the rest of his disciples. Before we do that, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to hear from your word and to consider it for ourselves today. We pray for those that are here and for those who are online with us today, that you'd bless our hearts. In your name we pray. Amen. So first thing let's talk about is what it looks like to believe like Jesus. Before Jesus comes, before the disciples come to Jesus and he tells them exactly what they're to do, he tells them something that is just, it can easily just kind of brush by. And it's this. He says that all authority or all power, the right to do stuff with, all of that has been given to him over heaven and earth. He says that there is no one who knows more than me about anything that can be known. There is no one with higher authority than me. There is no one who is worth more listening to than me. I am him, as the kids say today. And if you're going to be his disciple, he says that you really need to believe what he says. And I just want you to consider this, how different of a claim he is making here versus all the other religious figures throughout history who have amounted to anything. You think of Guru Nanak. So he's the founder of Sikhism, and he's kind of the first of 10 main prophets. He says that he's a kind of a big deal, but he doesn't claim to be divine, in that way. He claims to be someone who's pointing to the truth. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, he claimed to have experienced full enlightenment, and he he doesn't believe in like a personal God, but that kind of we are God. But he does not claim in any sense of the imagination that he is the cause of creation or the thing that holds all creation together, the authority on all of creation. He isn't saying that about himself. Muhammad, founder of Islam, he claims to be the last and final prophet, the most important prophet to listen to clarify all other prophets. Doesn't claim to be divine. He doesn't claim anything like that. And even Moses, within Judaism, Moses or the other prophets, they don't claim to be divine. They don't claim that kind of authority. They claim to have received knowledge from God to share with you. That's all they claim. Jesus, though, is claiming to not just be an authority on important matters, but that he has authority. He isn't just claiming to have some kind of knowledge about all things in heaven and on earth, but rather authority over all things. And that's a really important distinction with Jesus and every other religious founder, is that he is setting himself apart from them. And what this means for the disciple of Jesus then is that he is the most important person to listen to. That's the claim. If you're wondering what you should believe about life, what you should believe about yourself, about God, this world, or anything else, Jesus is a better person to listen to. And I want you to just kind of illustrate this. Think about like who we listen to in this life. So, kind of wondering what would happen if I ate 1,000 cheeseburgers. What would happen to me from like in terms of gravity? Okay, what would gravity's effect be on me if I ate 1,000 cheeseburgers? What would happen? If you have that question, as all reasonable people obviously have, you first go to Google and you ask Google, and then the first thing you're going to get is a thing on Quora. It's basically a question and answer site, and anyone can answer the things on here. All you have to do to be able to get your name, your thing high up here is that you can spout off words. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need anything, okay? And so you ask the question to Google, and Google says, well, this is what's going to happen to you. But let's say you have more of an investigative heart, and you decide to look, well, who wrote that answer there? Well, okay, I look up that person. They don't have any qualifications. Why would I listen to them? What would you then do? Well, you'd scroll down Google and you would try to find something that looks like a scientist had written it. Or you would look for the letters before the person's name. You would look for a doctor, so-and-so. And so you read the article by Dr. So-and-so, and it turns out that doctor has a doctor in horticulture. Is like, well, okay, that person, they may be smart, but I don't know that they're an authority in the area of gravity and cheeseburgers. And so you need to go further, and then you look for a doctor who maybe he is a physicist. Okay, that's the person you want to look to find an answer about what gravity's effect is going to be like on you if you eat 1,000 cheeseburgers. Jesus is not going that. He isn't stopping there, okay? He isn't just saying, I am really smart and I know specifically about the questions that you need answering. He is essentially saying here, I'm the one who created everything. I'm the one who sustains everything. I can change things as I want. I can do what I want. I don't just know everything about everything. I'm the one who can change everything. It's a massive distinction that he's making here. It's a claim to divinity. Elsewhere in the New Testament, he claims to have power over the laws of nature, and he says, if you pray, ask the Father, pick up this mountain and cast it into the sea. I can have him do that for you. He claims authority over sin, the ability to forgive sin. He claims authority over who enters into his Father's kingdom and who doesn't. He is claiming to be divine in every sense of the word. That's the important point here. He makes an incredible claim about himself, and it changes the entire nature of Christianity. It makes it more more risky, if you will. Other religions, they can allow a prophet to be products of their time. They can allow their prophet to get certain things wrong. Christianity can't. Christianity, if Jesus is wrong about anything and he claims to be divine, it means that you shouldn't trust him about anything. That's the distinction here. Christianity is all wrong if Jesus is mistaken about something. That's what the claim to divinity does here. It makes it more risky. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, you basically have two options when you come across something that you disagree with Jesus on. You can either be open to believing everything that he said and that you are wrong, or you can stop believing in Jesus. If you think he is wrong about one thing, you can't believe that he is God. You can't think that he is the ultimate authority of the universe while believing that you know more than him about something. Jesus doesn't let us pick and choose about what to believe. If you're a disciple of him, this man who claims to be God, you need to come to believe as he believes, or else you are not truly his disciple. But note, so that's the first thing here. but know what that being Jesus' disciple, it's not just a matter of the mind. We think of belief as purely a mind thing, right? This is a behavioral thing, okay? If you're a disciple of Jesus, it means that you behave like him too. Jesus tells the disciples that future disciples of his are to be baptized in or into the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and to observe or follow all of his instructions. And man, this stands in conflict with what many believe about being a Christian. It's notable that, and I mentioned in the Theology Thursday video, that when we identify Christians, we often use the term believer, right? There's a lot of believers gathered together today, or whatever. It's often how we use that term, and we often get it from the most famous of all Bible verses, right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but inherit eternal life. Belief's the big deal in Christianity, but it's not just a mental thing. Okay? It's not just about the belief that we have that there is a God, but it's about what we do with that belief. He invites us to faith, not just belief. And there's a big distinction there. Faith is saying, I believe that this is true, and so now I will step out into this thing. I believe that this floor is going to hold me up, and so I stand on it here. I believe that this world is not going to suddenly explode, and so I don't, live in constant fear. I believe that my car is going to work, and so I put the key in and I drive. My tires are going to work, and that's what faith is. But it's based in a belief. But if that belief doesn't produce an action, it's not a true belief. James, he says in his epistle, chapter 2, verse 17, he says, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. Now, I've heard it said so often, I'm sure you've heard it too. You think that this saying was from the Bible, but it's not. The saying, let's see, I think I have it up here. Oh, let's see here. There you go. All you got to do is believe in Jesus, and you'll be saved. You hear that phrase a lot. And at first it sounds kind of right when you consider the teachings of grace through faith. How do you receive salvation? It is through faith, right? Not as a result of works, so that no one may boast. But there's a couple really big problems with this saying. First, it makes it sound like it's possible to believe in Jesus while ignoring what he taught. But you can't say you trust in Jesus while disregarding what he says about himself or his moral teaching. It doesn't work that way. You can't, again, you can't pick and choose what to believe in him. And you can say, oh, I love Jesus. But if you don't know what he said, and you don't do what he said, it kind of makes it seem like you don't love Jesus. And a lot of people, they'll say is like, oh man, I love Jesus, but they just don't believe that what the church teaches is relevant or that it's correct. But usually when I encounter that person can rarely pinpoint something that the historic church holds to, that they disagree with, that Jesus did not also teach. There's individual cases where that's not true. But most of the time, what they're opposing is not just what the church teaches, but what Jesus has taught. What is it that you disagree with him on? I just kind of want to ask, do you disagree with him on what he said about his divinity? His teaching on the consequences of sin? He speaks more about hell than he does about heaven. I think that's important to note. He is law and gospel. What marriage is, how dangerous greed is, how important integrity is. Jesus says a lot of really uncomfortable things, and the church has historically taught those things. The reality is that many people's conception, though, of who Jesus is, it's based more on a slogan than on the historical accounts of the people who knew him, who personally heard him. And I think what I end up finding is that as you get to know the real Jesus from those people, the people who knew him and heard from him, you quickly find out that he has a lot to say. And he cares about what we do with what he has to say. And so that's kind of the first reason why that phrase is really not helpful. The second reason, and honestly the most important reason, is that it kind of puts the cart before the horse. It makes it sound like your beliefs are something that you can conjure up yourself. I choose to believe. I work this faith up within me. But that's not true. That's not how belief works. You don't cause your beliefs. They happen to you. You come to your beliefs because of what you've experienced in this life. So that's the second thing. And even worse yet, this phrase, it makes belief sound like it's something that you do for God, as though God needs you to believe in him. And then once you believe in him and make him feel good about himself, then he does something good for you. But that's not at all how it works. God is a gracious God to us long before we ever believe in him. It's the grace of God that causes us to believe. It's seeing God for who he really is that makes us want to be with him. It's seeing the real Jesus that causes us to want to behave like him. And so for the Christian here, the command is not just believe in Jesus, get baptized, and obey his commands, but get to know Jesus more. Experience him. Get to know him and get to know his heart for you and for the rest of the world. And what often happens as you get to know that heart is that you can't help but be changed by it. His all-encompassing love ends up changing your heart. And you actually see it in this passage. This passage is really short, but we see his all-encompassing love in three different spots here. And the first is in his heart for uncertain people. I hope you didn't miss this little line at the beginning of the passage. Here you have these 11 guys, 12 minus Judas, who have been walking and talking with Jesus for 3.5 years. They saw all of the miracles that he performed. They heard all of his predictions. They saw all the things that happened to him when he was arrested, crucified, buried, and then when he rose again. These are it was 40 days after Jesus resurrected. Here is this day. They witnessed him raised from the dead in those 40 days multiple times. And even with all of that, when these guys meet Jesus, where he told them that they'd meet him, some of them worship, but others have reservations. And we don't actually really know exactly what to do with this. It just says they worshiped him and they doubted. And the doubt isn't so much like I don't believe, but more I got some reservations. Okay, there's a different word that's being used there. And the thought is maybe all of them are worshiping, but all of them are kind of like, but this is crazy. Or there are some who are worshiping and some who are, I don't know what's going on here. We don't really know what to do with it there. And there's good reasons for both. But regardless, Jesus is talking to all of these people, all of these 11 guys. And notice what he doesn't do. He doesn't chastise them for their trepidation. He doesn't say, what else do I got to do, guys? He doesn't chastise them in any way. Instead, he gives them a better reason, more and more reason for them to believe in him. He says, I have all the authority in heaven and on earth. And by the way, I'm going to demonstrate that by ascending into heaven. And so he gives them a good reason to believe in him. And that's also what he does with us. As he knows that our faith is partial at best. He knows that our disobedience often has a dis at the start of it. And he's patient with us. He doesn't see us disobey our lack of faith in him, and he doesn't just, zap us or anything like that. He's gracious with us. He's patient with us. And he invites us to trust in him and gives us more and more reason to believe in him. That's the first way that we see his love for us. His mission is for the uncertain people. He loves uncertain people. A second spot you see it, this love is in his call to make disciples of all nations, all people groups. His love and grace is for all people. It's not just his own. It's not just the Jews. It's not all people that it's convenient to bring the good news to. It's to all peoples. People who can't reach out to God and find him. People who don't have a witness of the truth. People who are lost and who need Jesus. Those are the people that he is sending his disciples to. It's supposed to be a mark of the church that we give of ourselves freely to people who we don't see how they could benefit us, right? Why on earth would the church have people who are doing good work in England, in Norway, in Taiwan, in America? Why would they have Christians who are doing really good work in these places, really fruitful work, say, I know you got a parsonage, I know you got really healthy stuff going on, but I think we need to go to a place in Africa that doesn't have running water. I think we need to go to an island of unreached people where you don't even speak their language. Why on earth would the church ever do that? It's because God said they need the truth. They need my love. They need to experience the gospel. And if you don't go, they won't experience that. You can't stay where you are. You have to go. There's often it's said, this passage, it's wrongly said, Zach, as you learn Greek, this is something for you to know. There's one main verb in this whole verse, and it's make disciples, okay? And the others are participles. So they're still verbs, but often we think of them as weaker forms. And it's often said, this should be translated as you are going, make disciples, baptizing and teaching. And that's totally wrong, okay? You get further into Greek, you'll find out why. But basically, Jesus is saying, go. You gotta go. Not North Dakota accent, of course, but you gotta go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations. He is saying, you gotta get out. You can't stay in Jerusalem. You have to go and make disciples. Because those people, if you don't go, they can't be disciples. It's been our DNA, as a church body, and actually our church itself. It's what our Japanese ministry has been all about. It's been a college ministry of kids who come in, they stay for 10 months, and then they leave. And primarily this is a mission to them. that we've run. Now it's kind of changed dynamics a little bit, but it's been our DNA to care for people, to make disciples of people, to just throw our lives into people who are going to leave us and who can't benefit us, who aren't going to be here to turn the lights out at our funerals. That's been our history as a congregation, and that is exactly what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be a congregation that does ministry with people who, regardless of if they're going to be here, regardless if they own a home, regardless of if they will be here for a long time. And that's what we have to continue to be in this metropolitan center. People will come and they will go, but our church has to be comfortable doing ministry and making disciples of all nations, and as they go to places other than us. That's part of what our congregation is supposed to be, and that's what God did for us. He came to us not to benefit himself, but to benefit us. The point being here, kind of rambling, but the point being is that the mission that Jesus is inviting us into is expansive. It goes to all people, not because it serves the local church better, but because it serves the people who need it better. And that's the very definition of love itself. The last spot you see his love, all-encompassing love is in the assurance that he will be with us to the end of the days, to the very end of the age. For all of the great apologetic arguments for the existence of God, the truth of the resurrection, the truth of the gospel, I think the greatest one is the presence of Jesus himself in the lives of his followers. I think that's the greatest thing that shows the gospel and the validity of it. It's something that marks the church as it follows Jesus, and it's that Jesus is present with us. You pick this up in the book of Acts. There's this kind of little throwaway line at the beginning of the book of Acts. The book of Acts is written by the author of the Gospel of Luke. So Luke, he's writing, and he says at the beginning of Acts, in the first book, O Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Jesus began to do and teach. And then the book of Acts is kind of this this is what Jesus continues to do and teach through the Holy Spirit in the lives of his disciples. It's the presence of Jesus throughout the book is unmistakable. The apostles don't have plans. The plans they do have get upended. They don't have vision. They plan on staying in Jerusalem. They don't leave until persecution breaks out. It seems that Jesus actually causes that. The Holy Spirit is regularly directing the church outward and leading them where to go, telling them what to do, how to do it. One of the most common lines in the book of Acts is, and the Spirit said, and then the church did. His presence is apparent throughout the book, and it's still apparent today. And we get to see the evidence of that all the time as we minister here. It's not. I'm not saying our church is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but the presence of Christ in our church is continually being felt by our neighbors, even if they don't find themselves able to believe in what we believe right now. They are often tell me they're feeling Christ's presence in us, and the hope is that as they experience His love, it will begin to change them as it continues to change us. And so that's the mission that Jesus is inviting us into. It's a mission to be one of and make other disciples of Jesus who believe like him, who behave like him, who belong with him and the rest of his disciples. It's a mission that is based, motivated, empowered, and controlled by his love for us. And I pray that that's a mission that you want to be in. Lord, I ask that our hearts would be open to your mission more and more. Not as a way to win, but as a way to grow in holiness, as a way to know you more, as a way to show love, the love that you have shown us. God, you came and you delivered us from evil through Jesus. You did your work in us to grant us faith. You are working in us to shape our lives to be more like Jesus. And Lord, I ask that you would make us, our own little congregation and the church as a whole, into a safe place for people to belong with you and with other disciples. In your name we pray. Amen.